Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, a $10,000 tournament is just around the corner. Method's putting on a 16-team tournament with apparently all brand new teams from the upcoming CDL season, but it's happening before BO7 comes out. That means it's not on the new game, it's going to be on Modern Warfare 3 instead. We're going back to 6-star, we're going back to ReeaL. Lots of other updates on the day as well, some other Rostermania stuff, certainly down in challenges. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Wanted to start here, we will discuss that Zinni tournament in a few minutes time. But the COD League, of course, are running a tournament in Paris for the first time since 2017. They ran the ESWC events there for a few years in a row. Crim6 was always the absolute demon at these events. For some reason, whenever they went to Paris, Crim would always win. He won when he was on like Complex Evil Genius is, and then he won multiple times and it was an OpTic. But it's been a while since we've been to Paris. That's now been confirmed. The event is happening. They say the tickets for that, the updates on that are to come. Possibly it's going to take until Gentlemates confirm it themselves because they've not yet confirmed who's hosting this event, right? We know that the first event of the season is going to be OpTic hosted in Dallas. The second event is a DreamHack. The third event is a DreamHack. Champs is hosted by FaZe in Vegas, but I don't think Gentlemates have said anything about this yet. So probably that comes as and when they may or may not rebrand. This is just the quick update on the DreamHacks. So Birmingham Challengers, VIP, general admission, all sold out. You can still go to, if you've not bought a ticket yet, you can still just get a ticket to DreamHack and then turn up in the venue, right? That doesn't stop you from doing that. But in terms of guaranteed seating, those tickets are gone for Birmingham. They're not yet gone for Atlanta, but in Birmingham, they've got more updates because they expanded the room. So they're going to give more tickets on that out, I believe, in the near future. We do, of course, have BO7 just around the corner. As FaZe Vegas say, booking a flight to New Zealand. Now, I don't really know why this works. Well, I know why it worked, obviously, because it's, you just fast forward in time. It's just funny that it still works, right? This is not like an exploit you're going to get banned for or whatever, because it's been done for years. You go into your Xbox settings, you turn your, there's different ways to do it on different platforms, basically, but you change your location to New Zealand, you change your server on your account on the website to New Zealand, and you get to fast forward in time. It does make a big difference, though, when it comes to release time, because, from here in the UK, New Zealand's about 12 hours ahead. If you're East Coast or Central Time, you can make that, 17, 18 hours or something? I'm pretty sure it's like 5, 6 in the morning on the Thursday when the game will come out. So I think that's probably why OpTic are doing their race starting on the Wednesday, on the 10th, because they can have a few hours, and then in the early hours of the Thursday morning, the game is likely to be ready to go. So this is what it looks like. These are the relevant times and dates, but as I say, if you do the New Zealand trick, you might be able to get it a little bit early. There was a lot of talk as well about the prestige icons. I will say a lot of these icons nowadays, they're less like icons than they used to be, right? And look, are these AI generated? Probably, at least in some capacity, right? Like, I think you can look at these and you can find little intricacies and details that if a human designed them, they probably would be perfectly symmetrical, but they're not necessarily. So that's, of course, raised some questions. I don't know if these are really great. These are actually the first 8 logos or the prestige icons. I think there's a couple of these. Like this one here, that is kind of what you'd think of as a traditional prestige icon, right? Where a lot of the other ones are just kind of like drawings now, really, rather than being an icon. I mean, these are tiny in the actual game. You don't get to see the detail and the intricacy. So I don't really mind going back to a world where the icons are more standard, but I guess I've had so many prestige icons at this point. What are you really going to do? There's only so many options. Now, speaking of BO7, the other big thing I wanted to get into was another weapon. So we do know that the Maddox is coming back. So we saw what happened in the beta. The Drazah was rather good. We'll see what happens from an AR perspective, what weapon is the go-to. But the Maddox is coming back into the full release. I think it may be arriving in Season 1 slightly further down the line, but legendary weapon in Black Ops 4. Dashy, among others, had a great time with this gun that year. A very traditional flex gun. I mean, I don't even want to call it a flex because typically the flex role implies switching between an AR and an SMG, but in terms of a slaying, fast-paced AR, this is the gun you would use. Your main AR would use the ICR, which was an absolute laser beam, and then your SMGs, especially towards the end of the year when the SORG became hit scan, would use the SORG. Everyone else would use the Maddox, kind of like the K-bar from Infinite Warfare, if you guys remember that gun as well. That weapon's coming back. Now, is it going to be used? That's a different question, because it's going to be considered a DLC gun. Are the pros just going to throw it out? That is a good question. We know that the pros tend to never like to play with anything DLC related, because in the first few weeks, the pros get comfortable with the meta that they like. They might not even like it, but they simply end up using the best stuff. Then nobody wants to change the meta. It is what it is, and the CDL can force the players to play on the maps that the CDL chooses. They can't necessarily force the players to play with the weapons of their choosing. But if we're not going to get weapons down the line, right, the M8's coming at release, there are some questions on that. Plenty of other guns coming at release as well. The Maddox might be further down the line. If so, the pros might just, at least some of them, completely discount it immediately. But apparently this is an MSMC. Now, it looks a lot like an MP7, to be fair, but the MP7 and the MSMC, I guess, don't look radically different, and I can see the vision. So anyway, Ghost of Hope says, I've no idea why they've not talked about the MSMC being in a launch. So MSMC, legendary weapon from Black Ops 2, the best SMG in that game. What a fun weapon to use, like, unbelievable. They did bring it back, didn't they? I forget what they called it exactly, but I think they brought it back to like BO3 or BO4 or something as like a DLC gun down the line. I think they probably brought it back in COD Mobile as well, but it's not been talked about much, right? If they are bringing it into BO7, and there is a weapon like the MSMC, because if they're bringing the MSMC back, it's probably going to be viable to some degree. They've brought the M8A1 back from Black Ops 2 as well. They're doing a lot of BO2 throwback maps and all this, so it makes sense, right? The most iconic weapons in BO2 were the M8 and the MSMC, certainly from a competitive perspective anyway. The DSR, I think you'd have to throw in there as well, which they might also be bringing back. I think they might be. So, look, the MSMC, if it's back, it's probably not going to be weak, right? Like, in the same way that the M8 is coming back as a marksman rifle or whatever they're going to call it, but it's certainly a powerful weapon, maybe too powerful for the way the pros think about it, but the MSMC could very much be viable. We'll see if it does turn up in the real game alongside the Drazah, among others, that I'm sure are also going to be viable guns. Also on the Rostermania side, there's been a lot happening with Ravens over the last few days. There are big rumours that they were initially going to get Geo alongside Slasher. That's no longer going to be the case. So Lurks and Craze are rumoured over there. It was initially going to be Geo and Slasher, we thought, but now that's changed and it's going to be Nero, we think, instead. It's a bit of a mess for the Ravens, but reportedly Geo and Awakening are set to make their return to challenges, teaming up with Yuli and ReeaL. So, you know, second team I heard before now might not be a thing. So who knows really what happens next, but it looks like some of these guys are going to be down in challenges. That might be the team they're looking to form. Should be a pretty competitive team on paper. Of course, Geo had his time in the league last year again on Rokkr. Definitely in terms of talent, both of these guys, CDL caliber players, but Awakening had a difficult season on Boston. They've dropped him for Nasty. I can understand that decision in the circumstances. Ravens themselves, they're back, right? I mean, here we go again. Can you believe it? We thought they were dead and buried. We thought Space Station was coming in, but they're back on the scene for at least one more season. We'll have a look at what their roster might well look like here in a second while we discuss this upcoming invitational tournament. So, great job from Zeddy putting this together, right? During this off-season, we've had a couple of things here or there, but maybe not as many as we sometimes have in this period. So the 9th and the 10th of November, we have a Modern Warfare 3 2023 tournament going on. Now this, I think, is actually really exciting. Many would say, at least in hindsight, I think there's always rose-tinted glasses. I think for years we considered Cold War to probably be the best COD of the CDL era. Cold War was fine, like it wasn't as good as the other tryout games, but it got the job done. Modern Warfare 3, though, in hindsight, definitely carries a fair bit of weight. Now, if we didn't have the map set changes halfway through the year, I really don't think it would have done. The weapons, the gunplay was pretty good, but if we were playing Invasion and Karachi and, you know, Terminal and all this all year, I think we would have had a bit of an issue. But bringing in 6-star, Rio, Vista, as the season went on, made a big difference to how Modern Warfare 3 was perceived, and for good reason, because 6-star especially, legendary map. And I think it's really exciting to think about going back to that game, especially before a new title, because like if you're going to run a tournament right now, do you want to do it on Black Ops 6? I think, you know, we've seen Black Ops 6, right? It's kind of been and gone. We've seen plenty of BO6 over the last several, you know, months. So doing another game. So Zinni says 16 teams, full brand new rosters, $10,000 prize, raising money for November. So awesome stuff to hear about. But the implication here being, okay, so we have 12 teams in the league, so 16, presumably some challenger teams into the mix as well. But the full brand new rosters, and he has Scrap, JoeDeceives, Shotzzy and Envoy on the picture. So the only way this can really be perceived is that it's going to be their rosters, right? Because, you know, full brand new rosters for the CDL teams. Now, of course, some of those teams haven't yet been confirmed. That is certainly the case for Envoy on the Gentlemate as it stands. I don't know what the CDL thinks about this, whether they really care or exactly what their perspective is. We know that for some time the CDL, they've not wanted any of the teams to be seen before like the official CDL major, so they've prevented these guys doing the tournament. I think that's true when the new game comes out, right? If Black Ops 7 was here and you wanted to run a tournament on BO7, you couldn't do so with the full rosters. You'd have to do the 2 ARs, 2 SMGs thing that we have seen before. But to do so before BO7 is out on an older title doesn't seem like there is a problem with that. So we could well have effectively a big CDL looking tournament, but on a rather different game. And I think some of these teams would be really fascinating to see how they would perform on Modern Warfare 3. I think especially Thieves should be pretty happy about this, right? Okay, look, it's an off-season tournament. It is what it is. But Kenny was pretty good at that game, at least with respect to his difficult BO6 season. We don't know what things are going to look like in BO7. It's exciting to see Mercules play any old COD at this point. Merc has a pretty good record in recent times when it comes to winning anything he plays, quite honestly. That may well still be the case here, but we think these are going to be the rosters, so presumably these are the rosters that are going to play in this tournament. I don't know if they're going to get all of them to be able to play, right, because it seems pretty optimistic that every single one of these players will be available and ready to go, and the teams will be ready and happy with it at that time. Okay, for example, if you're Gentlemate, or if you're a number of these teams, you've not confirmed your roster yet, so who are they going to represent, right? Is it going to be Team Envoy, right, but it's just Gentlemates? So it's a little confusing. I don't know if they're going to be able to get every single one necessarily. There might be a few challengers teams that get thrown into the mix, but exciting nonetheless. Maybe a couple of content creator teams, throw them into the lion's den as well. But, you know, to see Toronto, OpTic, Thieves, and the top teams of the upcoming season, theoretically, of course, FaZe as well, among others, to see them hypothetically play for the first time in a game that's a couple of years old, but very competitively viable. And we know some of the players that were really good during that season. I think that's going to be fascinating. So I hope this goes to plan in a couple of days' time. As I say, it looks like a 2-day event over the 9th and the 10th of November, which is probably necessary to get from 16 teams down to a champion. And that's coming up in just a couple of days' time. So shout out Zinni Man for that one. Plenty going on elsewhere as well. I did wonder, I just saw this here from Illy, who was playing a Chow with, well, Huke and TJ and everything. Again, we know that Illy, Huke, Shotzzy, TJ, you know, all pretty good. Relationships there, just some still questions on whether Illy might end up on an OpTic Nation Challengers team leading the way there, or whether they might be making an appearance in this invitation as well. But that's where we're going to leave it for the day. Very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
What topic do you know more about than anybody in OpTic?
I want to state the obvious.
Anything related to COD stats and analytics, easily.
Oh, what topic? World of Warcraft.
East Carolina football, and also Minecraft.
I would say baseball.
I thought you were gonna say rap.
No, Nick's gonna be like chess. Gotham chess, Hikaru, Magnus.
Television.
You don't know more than me in television?
Yeah, I do.
I'd probably say like multiplication. I think I'm like the best at that, low key on some weird shit. Test me.
7 times 6.
42.
6 times 8.
48.
All right.
Graffiti, Call of Duty, esports, content. No one here knows more than me about anything.